I call the member for Ballarat.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Now, we have a saying in Victoria that most Victorians will be familiar of, and we say in Victoria, you've got more front than Myers, and I'm sure there is in fact similar expressions in other states in relation to their department stores. And it's used to refer to someone who's a bit shameless, sometimes insincere, and frequently someone who has a bit of cheek raising the issue given their own position. And that is exactly what we've got with this MPI today. An opposition with more front than Myers and a shadow minister with more front than Myers. Here we have an opposition very ready to criticise and in fact vote against the most significant investment and reform in our schools that we have seen, all without having a policy of their own. Where is the opposition's early learning policy? Where is the opposition's policy on schools and overcoming disadvantage in our education system? Where is the opposition's substantive response to the Bradley Review? There is the problem for the opposition. All they do is carp about the government's policy, but they have absolutely no policies of their own. They are a policy-free zone when it comes to education. Here they are trying to pretend that the past 11 years of their time in government has disappeared into some black hole, ceased to exist, and that they, only they, could do things better, if only they had have been elected in 2007. Well, I can assure the Australian people and those listening to this debate that nothing could be further from the truth. During the election, I and many of my colleagues made a commitment that we would invest substantially in education. And that is exactly what we are doing. The Rudd government is delivering an education revolution to the entire education system, from preschools and schools through to TAFE and universities. It is now 20 months since we were elected, and I stand in this House proud to say that our nation's education revolution is well and truly underway. I want to put on the record just what we have achieved so far. We have committed an unprecedented $14.7 billion to the largest school building and modernisation program in this nation's history. Through the National School Pride program, we've already seen $1.3 billion go to over 9,400 schools across Australia. My own 85 schools receiving some $9.56 million, going towards much-needed refurbishment and renewal of existing infrastructure or to build minor infrastructure. And it is also proving great for supporting local jobs. Just over 2 weeks ago, I visited a school in my own electorate, the Pentland Primary School, who received some $75,000 under this program. The principal at the school told me that right from the start he wanted the project to be a community project involving local tradespeople and business. And 10 local tradespeople have been involved in the project, and I met with some of them. And they overwhelmingly told me that if it was not for the government investment, they would absolutely be struggling for work. As part of the Rudd government's $14.7 billion commitment to building an education revolution, we've also seen our primary schools for the 21st century program, the subject of this MPI. My own electorate, 77 schools so far have been announced of some $96.4 million, an unprecedented investment in building up our schools that I have ever seen. One of the most exciting aspects of the Building the Education Revolution, and that will leave a lasting legacy, is the building of 21st century libraries. A lasting legacy which will have a significant impact on the learning outcomes for an entire generation of children. What could be more revolutionary than that? On top of this, $810 million has been approved to build and refurbish 537 science laboratories and language centres, and I'm proud that Mount Clear College in my own electorate will be building an Asian languages centre and incorporating within this centre Australia's first Confucius classroom in partnership with Nanjing No. 1 School in China. This, alongside the government's reintroduction of the NELSIS program, a program cut by the previous government, will put young people who go through this centre in a prime position for employment opportunities here and overseas. We've heard from the opposition members today about the issue of accountability. We've heard from the federal member for Sturt gleefully welcoming the audit of the Building Education Revolution, as though somehow the fact that there is an audit into such a large program expenditure is somehow unusual. Not only does the opposition want the audit report, and they're gleefully welcoming the audit report, as are we, we're very pleased that it's occurring, they seek to preempt the actual outcome. Now, I've sat on the committee, the Joint Committee for Public Accounts and Audit, for a long period of time, and I can tell the House there is nothing unusual about the Audit Office undertaking an audit into a program of this size. It is extremely common that that occurs. In fact, what would have been unusual is if they had not done an audit into this program. Can I also say that it's disappointing that the Shadow Minister for Education has not been supportive of the education revolution. We welcome the audit of this program because we know that what a review will outline to those opposite is how the Building the Education Revolution is working to improve education facilities across every corner of our nation, and how local communities are benefiting from this new infrastructure. Now, we do know that with such an unprecedented level of investment that there will be difficulties. Given the time frame, given the complexity of the programs, given this massive investment, this is a huge, unprecedented level of investment. There will, of course, be problems. But what those of us on this side of the House are doing, unlike the opposition, who's using every problem that occurs, we know they're going to occur, to make a political point, what we are doing on this side is working through those problems and trying to actually fix them, because they all are fixable, completely fixable. Understandable that they're occurring, but we on this side of this House don't want to make political points about them. We actually want to get on with the business of building this important infrastructure and fixing the problems as they occur. Now, the member for Sturt has also made much of the need for value for money. What I'd like the member for Sturt to do is, and the offers out there, is to make a list of every school where he does not believe that they should be getting funding. He should make a list of every school that he thinks has been poorly targeted, and we can go to those schools and let them know that the opposition does not believe that they should get funding. But let me wait. In fact, the opposition doesn't believe any school should be getting any funding because they voted against this proposition. So here they are out there saying poorly targeted, should be better targeted. There are problems with it for a program that, if they had been in government, would not exist at all. Not a single school would be getting a cent. Now, I wonder if the member for Sturt will be going along to the opening of the infrastructure projects in his electorate. Infrastructure projects like the Paradise Primary School. And I read in one of the local newspapers in his electorate, the East Torrens Messenger, that the Paradise Primary School principal, Peter Spragg, is pretty excited about the funding that he's getting. He says, and I quote, "The federal government initiative has allowed us, for the first time in a long time, to lift our eyes over the horizon, to have a pipe dream for what is possible. It is disappointing that the member for Sturt is so unsupportive of that dream." The Rudd government is also delivering $2.2 billion to a digital education revolution, and to date 78,000 computers have been delivered to Australian schools, 14 schools in my own electorate sharing over 2,154 new computers. We're delivering on our $2.5 billion Trades Training Centre program. So far, over 400 schools nationwide have benefited from the $425 million already announced. Across the nation, we've also seen 15 projects approved under the first round of our Local Schools Working Together pilot program. $31.7 million already delivered of the total $62.5. And Sebastopol College, again in my own electorate, in partnership with other schools, are building a $2.476 million college community hub, which will be a significant asset for an area in my community that has been disadvantaged for some time. It is a great project. We've acted with the states and territories to deliver a national curriculum, and where already significant progress has been made. We've invested through the National Education Agreement and working far more closely on transparency and accountability across the system. All significant reforms. Unlike the opposition, who sit in a policy vacuum, this government believes that all children, regardless of their background or location, should be given the opportunity to achieve their full potential. We want to lift literacy and numeracy rates. We want to make sure that young people are being taught by high-quality teachers. We want schools to provide support for disadvantaged students. We want higher standards in all schools. Parents and children have the right to expect the very best education facilities and learning experience for their children. We are delivering through both a major reform agenda and an unprecedented investment in education infrastructure. Rather than criticising and carping about our policies, it is well and truly time the opposition came up with one of their own.
The member's time has now expired.